Average at Best Cornhole here. Now with our attempts to branch out a little bit more, I came across Throwing Stones Cornhole, and I felt that would be the perfect bag company for us to try out. Why? Because they're primarily in the TCL, but now they have an ACO stamp, and they're trying to get into the ACO a little bit more. Got my hands on a set of Unicorn X and Minotaur X, or Minnow X, and unique thing about these bags is the X. It's actually the complete opposite of what I thought Cornhole Bag X interpretations were. Jumping right into speeds, Throwing Stone gives the Minotaur X a 4.5 to 5 range for the slow side and a 9.5 on the fast side. I really like that range for the slow side because this is a herringbone bag, and we all know that that can fluctuate a little bit. Now, the Unicorn X, they rate at a 5.5 on the slow side and a 9.5 on the fast side. 9.5 to me on both these series, they do have the same fast side. It's probably a little high. This is common at 9, if you ask me. And like I stated, the materials are herringbone for the Minotaur X. This is that common herringbone we all know. And then the Unicorn X does have the R hybrid material. And they both share that Viper Pro Sniper fast side. Template on these bags is a little different than we're used to. A lot of bags have a medium template. Now these are slightly larger than that medium. I'm not talking a lot larger, but still both of them are slightly larger than medium. And they both are on the thinner side. To get into fill and flop, Minotaur and X, it does have a mix of flat resins, and it is extremely floppy. It's nice because it's floppy enough to give this herringbone some forgiveness. Now the Unicorn X does have what he calls his active flat resin. I don't know if that's another mixture of flat resins or if he put some ovals or some filler beads in here with it, but that bag is also pretty floppy and extremely forgiving. I want to touch on the bagmanship, and that's because Throwing Stones does have this unique seam. If you see, it is threaded on the outside somehow, and then they go flip it. It is unique. It's something that you notice at first, but as that bag breaks in, you don't even know it's there, and it's only an added benefit to the bag. And I say that because materials need broken in to soften up and, you know, feel the same. The same with the thread. So if you have extra threads there, when they're brand new, they're a little stiff. So you do feel them, but as you get the bag broken in, those threads also break in and get soft themselves. Getting into the slide up, and I want to start with a highlight and a low light of these bags. And the Minotaur X, this is an extremely forgiving herringbone bag. Normally don't say that about herringbone because we know it is slower and we know it is active. Now it is still a little active, but I think it's a little bit more forgiving than it is active. Now a low light on this bag, and I don't even know what to call this, but these bags are so floppy and loose that sometimes they kind of hang up on the hole. And I'm not saying slow down and get stuck. Like literally they overlap the hole and get hung there and really don't want to move. Now I did notice this happening more when they're brand new, whereas in the process of breaking them in, it's happening a lot less now that they are broken in. But before, when they were hanging there, they were just kind of stuck. And I'm not talking about plugging, like literally they're just hanging there, and they were even hard to airmail drag. But if you see it in the throw videos, I have some nice shots of this bag really dripping, and I made a pretty good short where I threw this bag, it got hung up on the front. Cooper was playing against me. He threw completely off the board, didn't even hit it. And then after he threw, when I was going to throw, that thing dripped in with no one touching it. So there is some drip to this bag. And like I said, that hanging up issue, that was a little bit more early on in the stage when I was breaking them in. The highlight of this Unicorn X is how easy it is to throw straight. It's kind of hard to explain, but with that active resin, when it kind of hits, it kind of just thuds and it slides straight on you. I was kind of thinking like it's a confidence builder bag. Say you're not throwing that well and you want to get your confidence back up. take this bag out because it's going to slide straight most of the time for you. Now, the only problem with that is it was a little bit harder to get this bag to do things with the faster hybrid material and that flat fill. I didn't have a ton of success cutting it and shaping my shots real well. But you can see in some of our throw videos, a friend was playing with us and he was able to roll this bag. So it is possible. It was just a little bit harder for someone with my skill level. I do want to talk about break-in on these bags real quick, because if you do pick up a set of these bags, like I said earlier, it takes a little bit longer to break them in, and I don't want you to get discouraged. The longer it takes to break a set of bags in, for one thing, you get way more experience for it. And I truly think that if it takes longer, it means the bag should last longer, especially with these seams. It took a while to get them to soften up and stretch and full out. And you know that happens is once you start seeing that colored thread there in the corners start to poke out, that's right when the bag becomes money. So take your time with them and actually throw them enough to break them in, and you won't be disappointed. And I think the longevity, especially with this special seam, it's going to increase the bag's life. These are some of the most forgiving bags I've seen, especially the Mino X, since it is herringbone. You don't ever hardly say herringbone is forgiving, but with the floppiness of this bag and the fill in it, it is forgiving. And like I touched on earlier, Unicorn X, it does just slide straight for you. As far as the whole bodiness, the Minotaur X, I mean, it is a herringbone bag and it does have flat fill. So don't expect to have that drip. But as you see in the videos, and like I explained, this bag does drip, and it's actually surprising how well it drips. The Unicorn X, on the other hand, it has that active flat fill, and the faster hybrid bag, you can expect this bag to drip. And it is loose and floppy enough that the chances of you catching a corner, if you are off target a little bit, really increases with the floppiness. I struggled a little bit with collecting with the Minotaur X, especially if they are off to the side and you're trying to pull them back in, because it is herringbone, so it still is going to cut a little bit for you. So I was trying those cut collects. Now, straight on, no issue at all. But sometimes when these bags are loose, you know, you can have the pellets all shifted to one side and it kind of bunches up, and it really doesn't grab it and pull the bag over. The Unicorn X, on the other hand, I actually had really good experience collecting with these bags. I think that flat fill does collect a little bit better, and since this bag is a little bit fuller than the Minotaur X is, it definitely excelled in collecting compared to the Minotaur. Playability for this series and the Unicorn X, I'm running holes with this bag. I think it's an offensive bag, and like I said, you can cut it a little bit and you can do a few things with it, but I think it's best with, you know, the forgiveness of it and how it slides straight. Just run some holes with it, beat other blockers with it. It is fast enough, you can bully through your opponent's bag to get to the hole, and with that flop, you have a greater chance of catching the hole and it falling. The Minotaur X, also, I'm going to run holes with that. I know that's odd to say for a herringbone bag, but it's definitely more of an offensive bag to me, because you can't shape shots with this herringbone bag as well as you can with others. And where it really excel is on, you know, super fast boards or whatnot, because the herringbone does slow down. So that way you're not flying off the back, and just use it to your advantage and use the fact that it can bunch up and cut a little bit if you want to cut in between a couple bags, or, you know, barely cut around, bunch it up and get around that corner and find the hole. Throwing Stones does have a website. It's just throwingstonesllc.com, and that's where you'll go to purchase the ACO bags. Now, you can also find the TCL bags on the TCL website, which is shop.texascornholeleague.com. I will say that the website, it's still in the premature stages. It's really not stocked yet. I reached out to a rep. I worked with someone named Jeremy Fuentes. I'll include his name right here, and then I'll put it in the comments. As far as my understanding is he's going to be the point of contact. He's going to be the rep And the availability of them, like I said, you should probably reach out to that rep and ask what's available. I know they're slowly getting the ACO bags out. Didn't look like there was a whole lot on the website. The TCL website is pretty stocked with these bags, so you can always go that route. But if you want the ACO stamp, reach out to that rep and ask him, and he might be able to get your hands on a set. And as far as the cost, from the few that's on the website, it looks like they should be right around the $80 for a set mark. I know the TCL bags are a little bit more. They're like $90, but I think the ACO stamp bags are going to be right down there at the $80 mark. Finally, my overall thoughts on these series. When we started this to reach out to beginners and non-experienced throwers. Well, here you go. Both of these bags are super forgiving, and they would be a good choice for a beginner or someone that's just getting into cornhole. Yes, elite players can do whatever they want with these bags, but the fact that they are forgiving, it really makes them easy to throw. And it was even fun for me to throw, which I'm a little bit above a beginner. Like I said, it built my confidence up, especially these Unicorn X, because they did slide straight every time, and they were a little bit quicker, and I was able to bully through some things. The Minotaur X, I mean, it does have some of the characteristics and capabilities that a herringbone bag would, but I think it's more of a forgiving herringbone bag than I would say it's a shop-shaping herringbone bag. So people can cut and roll and flop this bag for sure, but average players, it's going to slide straight for you. It's going to have minimal kick, and if the boards are super fast, it's going to be a great choice for you. And I just want to end this with, you're going to be average at something, be average at cornhole.